Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now that we understand some of the foundational principles of spiritual development, at least we've defined what we're trying to speak about, the next step now will be to talk about what are these basic features that are necessary in order to achieve spiritual development. Remember that I said that we have to seek the Sunnah, and that these features of the Sunnah, various features of the Sunnah, need to be constitutively, constantly expressed in the life of a believer. And as part of spiritual development, sometimes emphasis is placed on one in order to get extra expression of that based on the circumstance of the person and the time and place in which the discussion is occurring. So now what we're going to do in the next series of sections is we're going to talk about these various features that should be present in the life of a Muslim in general and should be particularly emphasized in the one who wants to develop spiritually in particular. That's the goal of these next few sections. So the first is good company. The first key characteristic that a person should seek, generally and specifically for their spiritual development, is going to be good company. The company of the Prophet ﷺ was essential for tazkiyah. Sahaba achieved what they achieved because they were in the company of Rasulullah ﷺ. And this company is so essential that it essentially defines the categorization of the companions fundamentally. What do I mean by that? Well, when you think about the companions, there's a lot of characteristics that were common amongst them. Their devotion, their worship, their characteristics, their sacrifice, their focus. All of these were features of the companions, and many, many more. But those characteristics don't define the companions. What defines the companions is the fact that they came in the company of the Prophet ﷺ in a state of iman. Such that if a companion were to have converted and then gone into battle and then passed away even without even having prayed one prayer, they would attain the status of being a companion. And if we spend our whole life, day and night, emulating the companions, we can never attain the status of a companion. Because this one feature is the key definition. They came in the company of the Prophet ﷺ in a state of iman, and by doing so, they automatically achieved excellence. Now you could argue, so essentially why am I mentioning this? Because this is highlighting the essential nature of good company. Now you could make the argument, what about the fact that that's a prophet and those are companions, and so how could we really take from that principle and make it relevant to us? Meaning, how could we emphasize good company so much when we don't have the company of the Prophet ﷺ? And the answer would be, well, it's not only a defining feature of the companions, it's also a defining feature of the two great generations that came after. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ gave his stamp of approval on three great generations: the companions, the tabi'in, and the tabi'in. Now the next question would then be, fine, what defines the tabi'in? The tabi'in, what defines them? They had to be a person who came in the company of a companion. And the tabi'in, what defines them? A person who came in the company of the tabi'in. So even in the two great generations after the companions, each is being defined by the company that they kept, and this generally is highlighting a core principle, which is that company is essential for spiritual development. And that's why we say on this next slide, just as with all prophetic functions, company of the spiritually trained is part of spiritual development. A person who wants to develop spiritually needs to seek the company of those who have excelled in their own spirituality. Now, again, this is a general principle. Everybody would know that good company is good for everything. Everybody should seek good company in anything that they do. But I'm specifically saying that the person who seeks to achieve excellence must come in the company of people who are excellent. And nobody can even debate that because we all do that in our lives anyway. Somebody who's excellent at academics knows that they need to go to the best college possible. Somebody who wants to be excellent in medicine knows that they need to train with the best physicians possible. Somebody who wants to be excellent as a lawyer needs to practice in the best firm possible because of the company, because that's what drives individuals towards excellence. So it's very particular for deen, but it's a generally accepted concept in this day and age. Now I say here, just as with all prophetic functions, because this idea is applicable to every prophetic function. For example, if you want to be excellent in tajweed, you have to go to in the company of the people who have studied tajweed and who are excellent and striving in tajweed. If you want to be excellent in fiqh, you have to go in the company of people who are excellent in fiqh and who are studying and striving in fiqh. If you want to be excellent in the spiritual dimension of our deen, you have to go in the company of the people who are excellent in their spirituality and who have trained and who are training others in this sphere of our deen. This foundational principle is highlighted by this ayah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. O you who believe. All the believers are being addressed. Ittaqullah. Be conscious of Allah. وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And be with the people of sincerity. Sadiqeen refers to the people who do what they say and they say what they do. Their actions are in accordance with their words, and their words are in accordance with their action. The people of sidq. It's a very special state that a person can achieve through their sincerity in deen. And here, all believers are being commanded. Number one, be conscious of Allah. And number two, keep the company of the pious and the righteous, the sadiqeen. So this highlights this general principle and should be a feature of people who are trying to develop spiritually. It's actually one of the core features. That's why I discuss it first. It's really one of the core features. When somebody in the science of spirituality historically, when somebody comes to the conclusion that I have not achieved the excellence that I'm seeking, their go-to method would be go and find the company of those people who have achieved what you are seeking to achieve. That was the go-to method. That is a common thread throughout all of Tasawwuf. So that's why I established this first.